Welcome to the Retro Blood.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Retro Blood as we start off a brand new month here on the Retro Blood, June 2024, talking all about bad, maniac, psycho, killer cops in 1980s horror movies. Up first, if y'all like detective, crime, good cop, bad cop stories with a main character who cheated on his wife and is hunted down for killing all these cops even though he was innocent. If y'all like Tom Atkins being a serious cop and not like a character who's just trying to fuck a bunch of girls. And if y'all like a scarred up, buff cop who doesn't talk any but kills all these other cops, then this is the review for you, brother, because the Retro Blood is talking all about Maniac Cop. Allison, James Klein, welcome back, Allison, to the Retro Blood. You have returned for a month of crazy cop, psycho cops, and all that cop stuff.
I am back, and hopefully for good. It sucked having to miss it this month, but you know, as you said, I was on assignment.
Yes,
doing research on psycho cops. But yeah, no, everything's going good. Like you said on the show earlier, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. I had to go take care of some things so I can keep rocking for years to come. But should be good. Got some things taken care of. Should be good to go. I guess I'm just not as able to keep up with the rocking with docking as you are. Yes. So I had to take some time off and get some stuff prepared. I'm not the rocking machine that you are over there, James. So.
Yeah, the spring chicken. You know what I mean? I got you.
Yeah.
You're not the you didn't really miss that much last month. I'm not gonna lie. You know, we did the whole month of the slumber party slasher teenage month, and it was interesting talking about all that stuff on there. And to be honest with you, if you would have done that whole review with me, I'm pretty sure a lot of those movies would have sent you back on assignment. So
probably, yeah, that would have set my wellness back several months, I'm sure. But you did the Driller Killer movie, and I missed that, and that sucks.
Yeah, well, you know. There is a remake we can maybe do later on for the Lights Out if we want to wanted to dabble on that. But we
want to test the waters.
Yes. Speaking of testing the waters, this one is a pretty interesting movie. So I'm not sure if you know about this, Allison. All right, because when I was doing some of my research
about Maniac Cop.
Yes. Now there's I
know a lot about Maniac Cop.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of talk about when we get on to the who booked this shit. But before that, this movie came out May 13th, 1988. Okay.
Yep.
And that's known for two things here on the Retro Blood. Number one, in shoot life, I was 3 years old. All right.
Yeah. Your birthday. Yeah.
And we've actually done two other movies that came out on the exact same date here on the Retro Blood. Okay.
Interesting.
And those two movies are Friday the 13th, The New Blood. All right, which I believe is part 7. And we did The Nest. So both those movies came out on the exact same day as Maniac Cop. All right, and of course, Friday the 13th is obviously the higher of the box office draw, all right, at the time. But Maniac Cop actually did pretty well at the box office during its run as well, too. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Everybody go check those two reviews out. That these three actually really fun horror movies came out on the exact same day. So that's pretty cool.
It's like a trilogy.
Yeah.
Made a March 13th, 1988 trilogy.
We could pretty much done like a marathon. You know what I mean?
We could have, yeah.
And I'm thinking like if I was going to do a marathon, I probably would have saw the Friday movie last, maybe. Because, we already seen a bunch of, that's like number 7. And then The Nest and the Maniac Cop, I guess it would be a toss-up of which one we would see first. But I thought this movie was pretty fun. This has to be like one of the only movies that has like Tom Atkins and Bruce Campbell in it together.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look that up, but I can't think of another one.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting on the roll over here. And before we get started, everybody, if you notice that I sound a little congested, because I am. All right, got the good old allergies hitting me, so you gotta bear with us the whole time. You know, that's just the way it rolls sometimes. But like we do every Retro Blood, and this is returning for the month of June, we're going to talk about what was happening in the world of the pro wrestling and the metal music. The reason we do this, we like to create like a weekend for everybody. And since we already kind of talked about this month and this date before, we actually did find some things that we haven't talked about, which is great. So the first thing I want to talk about, because it's going to be one of the shorter of the two, is what was happening in the world of the pro wrestling. We have talked about... before on this date, we talked about Jim Crockett Promotions at this time, and we also did the look at superstar Billy Graham on the episodes of the Friday the 13th Part 7 and The Nest. But this one, I want to go over a WWF house show that actually was taking place in Buffalo, New York. All right, at the Memorial Auditorium. All right, and I'll just talk about maybe a couple of the matches over here that I found was pretty interesting. All right. So one of the first matches that we have over here is a returning to the Retro Blood Ron Bass. And he actually defeated, and actually a real defeated, which is interesting to me. He actually really defeated, because it doesn't say there's no count-outs, no doubles disqualifications or nothing. He actually defeated the Junkyard Dog in a straight-up wrestling match.
That is pretty amazing as hot as Junkyard Dog was.
Yeah. And, like, it's very interesting, too, because you barely see any kind of clean finishes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure there was some, like, some malarkey going down, but he actually got a pinfall on him, which is very interesting.
Yeah, because if he won by disqualification, it would say so. So
yes, exactly. So then the next match we have is Bad News Brown. He fought Bret Hart to Allison's favorite double countout.
Love it.
So
Love the double count out.
So we can defeat the Junkyard Dog, but Bret Hart we got to protect right now, which makes sense.
Yeah.
1988, he's about to blow up pretty soon, so makes sense. And we have the tag team Strike Force. All right, Rick Martel and Tito Santana, and they actually defeated Demolition, Axis Smash by disqualification.
Oh, of course.
So Demolition
Smash just hit him with something.
Yes. So Demolition retained the World Tag Team Championships. All right. And then check out this main event. And I would have loved to see this main event live for the pure, like, stalling and just, like, slowness and just the wackiness. So we have a tag team main event of the Ultimate Warrior and Jim Duggan taking on Andre the Giant and Hercules. I mean, can you think of a slower match in history?
No, that would be, especially in 1988. Yeah, that would have been slow as molasses.
Like, the Ultimate Warrior probably was like the quickest one in the match, and that's saying something, all right?
Yeah, and that's saying something. You're right.
Now, I wonder if
that would have been awful.
This is probably around the time, too, where they were saying, like, the Warrior was working a lot with Andre, and Andre hated working with them because he would, like, the Warrior would never listen to him. So I think there was one story where, the Warrior always do that running spot where he would run and do the clothesline, all right? And he would do that, like, from back the rope. And, of course, Andre, he didn't go down after the first one. He would go down after, like, maybe the third one, or he'd get tied up in the ropes. Andre used to do that rope spot where he could, he would fall into the ropes and get his arms stuck in the ropes. He said he got fed up with the Warrior so much one time that the Warrior wasn't listening to him. So when Warrior was doing that running spot, he just hold his hand out, his fist out, and Warrior just ran right into his fist and knocked him out. That'd be great if it happened.
Always said. Yeah, that would have been awesome. But that's what they always said about Andre, right? It was like you never really knew how the match was going to end. Like Andre decided.
Yeah.
Because Hogan always says that. Now Hogan said a lot of things that aren't true over the years, but Hogan even said, in that WrestleMania 3 match that he wasn't sure if he was going to let Hogan slam him, and he wasn't even sure if he was going to let Hogan win.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that is Hogan saying that. You never know.
True. So you never know if that's.
But I can believe that though. Like I can believe that Andre had such clout that he was probably like the locker room leader. So obviously what he says to the promoter, or whoever he's working with, I'm pretty sure he would get his way most of the time. If he wanted to.
Right, he's a unique specimen. So if he's not going to work here, then he's going to work somewhere.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
But yeah, Hercules is one of my favorite. Just jacked up dude.
Yeah, he's a good wrestler for a jacked up dude. It's just and he is what he is.
I still want to review the best of Ultimate Warrior. We might do that one time in the near future. Because literally,
I don't know how much near future that'll be, but we'll see.
The first match is literally just Ultimate Warrior and the Hercules in a chain match, and my God, the fucking overselling of this tiny little chain on these jacked up dudes' bodies is fantastic. I loved it. So
not only are they two slow guys, they're chained together, so they also can't get apart from each other either.
Yes,
that's fantastic.
Just pose. That's all I need.
Just pose.
I just go out there and flex the steroid body up muscles. That's all I want. Okay? Come on now. This is the 80s, brother. Okay? We're not playing around over here. You know what I mean? I'm like
body.
Yeah, I'm like the detective on this movie, Frank. I ain't playing around with your guys' conspiracy shit. I already know there's a corrupt cop in here, brother. All right?
Right.
Just give it to me straight. All right, Allison, what do we got going on for the music? We actually got a pretty fun band to talk about.
Yeah, so when we started discussing the release date, I'm actually, and especially when I found out we'd done 3 movies that came out on this day, I cannot believe we've not talked about this album.
Yeah.
So this was at one point one of my favorite albums of all time. I feel like now I've played it to death, so I don't really like it as much as I used to. It's one of those things where I just listen to it too much, and now I just kind of sick of it, and I don't really want to ever hear it again. But if you were to put it on after a few seconds of it, I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember why this is good. So we've talked about the band Queensrÿche before. We talked about The Warning, I believe.
Yes.
The Warning is kind of like prototypical Queensrÿche. They were trying to get their style and get the theatrical stuff that they wanted to do and set that as their their career. And they it took them like 3 albums, but with their 3rd album, Operation Mindcrime, they finally got that. Mindcrime is a concept album, so it's like the whole album tells a story about this kid named Nicky who's like a drug addict, and he gets tricked or like brainwashed or something into becoming an assassin for this underground revolutionary group. And then at the beginning of it, he wakes up in a hospital and he doesn't really have any memories, and they're trying to come, and his memories start to come back, and he starts to remember what he's been doing, and then he tries to find some way to stop this organization. But basically, Mindcrime, when we were going to see these movies driving around in the Trans Am, this would definitely have been something that I would have been pushing in your face to listen to. I remember buying this on cassette when it was new. It looked so cool. The cassette case was white. It had a clear cover, and then the back of it was white. And then the cassette was clear, but it had white writing on it.
Yeah.
And it had this really big fold-out booklet that had all the lyrics in it, and that so you could follow along with the story. But this is Queensrÿche at their finest. Like, this is them in their prime. They were never better than this, and they were never even close to as good as this again. But like this, it took them 2 years to make this album. Like, they were like writing and recording this record for 2 years, and it's amazing. Like, every song flows into the next song. It tells the story perfectly. You don't need to read anything else to understand what's going on. It's got really cool dual guitar leads. Jeff Tate's Rob Halford-esque vocals. Have you ever heard this album before?
Yes. So when we were doing the research, when we did the warning, the first song I heard from the Queensrÿche was "I Don't Believe in Love," which is off this album. It is actually the song that was played mostly in the charts here in the United States. So that's the one I was listening to the most, and then I started listening a little bit to the album too, and I was like, oh man, this is pretty fun. So doing the research when we did the warning, I listened to this album as well too.
Yeah. I Don't Believe in Love was a single, I believe, from this album.
Yes.
But yeah, it was. It's fantastic. It's one of those things that you just kind of have to hear it to get how great it is. But it's like listening to a movie.
Yeah.
It was so like, and it kind of sucked for them because when this album was new in 1988, they weren't a big enough band to be able to do a tour like they wanted to do and perform this in its entirety with, theatrics and video screens and things like that. I think they went out on tour with Metallica. I think they were the first opener on the Injustice for All tour. So they were playing basically Operation Mindcrime in a 45-minute block, opening for Metallica every night. But then finally in 1991, which is the tour I saw them on, they were big. They had Silent the City was out by then, so they were like a huge band. So they were playing arenas, and then they played like 2 sets, and the first set was like the songs from Empire, which were new at the time, and then some of their older songs. And then the second set, they played. They had these big theatrical screens and props and things out on the stage, and then they played Operation Mindcrime all the way through.
Wow.
And they finally got to achieve that that moment they should have had in 1988, but took them a couple of years, but they got there. But yeah, if you want to hear something, if you like prog metal, anything progressive like that, and you like like really cool stories, sci-fi type stories, and especially if you like Queensrÿche
with that 80s reach.
With that 80s reach, then you should definitely check out Operation Mindcrime. It's a fantastic album.
Yeah, I see they're still touring today, aren't they?
Queensrÿche is still touring today, but there's almost nobody in that band that played on this album.
Oh, okay.
I think one of the guitar players and the bass player are the only people that are still in that band. And the singer Jeff Tate has his own. They have a weird history because something happened between them, and he quit the band, and then he tried to start his own Queensrÿche. And one year, 2 different bands called Queensrÿche released an album in the same year. So Jeff Tate released a Queensrÿche album with different people, and then Queensrÿche released an album with a different singer in the same year. And then they went to court, and then Jeff earned the rights to. He lost the rights to Queensrÿche, but he earned the rights to everything that's Operation Mindcrime. So he called his band Operation Mindcrime for a while. So Queensrÿche can't really use the Operation Mindcrime stuff anymore, but Jeff can. So it's kind of weird how this whole thing worked out. But yeah, it's weird band legal politic things.
That's how they do it sometimes, man. It could be a little crazy.
Yeah, that's how you have to do it.
So apparently, there's also. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if we ever break up, then I'll sue you, but I'll only get like the retro part of the name.
Does that mean I get the blood?
Can't use the blood part. You get the blood part, and I can only use the retro part of the name. So I have to start a podcast called Retro, and I don't know. It's just dumb.
Yeah, maybe I can can I keep my taglines?
Yeah, you'll probably end up keeping your taglines. Yeah.
Gotta trademark my taglines of what happened when, or
yeah. You'll be like Chris Jericho. You'll just start trademarking everything you think of.
So apparently, there's also a sequel to this album too that was released in 2006.
Well,
does it suck?
There is, but yeah, it's made by different people.
Oh, okay.
It's made by newer Queensrÿche. I think Jeff Tate is on it though. Let's see. It's the Operation Mindcrime sequel. I think I've ever heard it. Yeah, so this has Jeff Tate, Michael Wilton, and Eddie Jackson on it, who are in the original band. So this is right before Jeff Tate quit, I guess. So it doesn't have Chris DeGarmo. So Chris DeGarmo is like the guy that was like really behind most of the music in the band. So I'm guessing this wouldn't be as good. I just wasn't interested in an Operation Mindcrime sequel. Maybe it's good. I should probably listen to it and see. I don't know. Who knows? But it's something I just didn't give a chance, most likely, at the time. But I knew DeGarmo wasn't on it, so I really wasn't that interested in it. But I should listen to it and report back next week and see if it's actually good.
Yeah, because on here was, I guess, the split you were talking about between Jeff Tate and the Queensrÿche happened around 2012.
Okay, so it was a few years later.
Yeah. So, but they were having
the album for this.
They were having problems making the album, basically.
Yeah, they definitely were. DeGarmo had been gone for several years at this point, I believe. Q2K is even on that one. Hell no. He'd been gone for several years, and I once Chris DeGarmo left, I was kind of lost interest in Queensrÿche. But I don't know. I'll give it a shot. That'll be homework for me.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't have anything else. I'll listen to Operation Mindcrime 2, and I'll report back and see if it's as good as Maniac Cop 2.
Oh, yeah. Too bad we can't do Maniac Cop 2 on the Retro Blood. It came out in the 90s. It
came out in 1990.
And I actually heard it was a pretty good sequel, too.
It is. It's a good sequel. It's Lorraine, what's her name, that played Mallory, came back in for it. Yeah.
Maybe one day or year or this month or whatever, we'll do a Retro Blood 90s. And we'll keep the Maniac Cop 2 in the mirror.
For that? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. But speaking of that, let's talk about who booked this shit when it comes to Maniac Cop, because there's a lot of fun little stuff to happen while making this movie. So
Larry Cohen's back.
Larry Cohen's back, man. We talked about him during the Steph, brother. Yeah. And so apparently, Larry Cohen, he knew, obviously Larry, he's a writer and producer. Okay.
Yeah.
But the film was directed by William Lustig. Okay.
Yes.
So if I got this correct on here, Larry Cohen knew the guy Bill Lutz. All right. And Bill, he was the guy who made Maniac in 1980. All right.
Which William Lustig directed.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So Larry liked that movie Maniac so much that he wanted to make he basically wanted to make like a Maniac style movie, but have a cop with it. So he was like, that's basically how he got his influence for Maniac Cop, is from the movie Maniac. Right?
Right. Yeah.
But obviously the movies are like totally different. All right. The tone and everything. All right. But that's where they got the idea. That's where he got the idea of casting William as the director too. All right. And on my research here, apparently a lot of the scenes was obviously they filmed a lot of it in New York and Los Angeles on like a $1 million.
Bring that up.
Yeah, on a $1 million budget. Yep.
Yeah, the scenes at the end of the movie are definitely shot in Los Angeles because you can see mountains and palm trees in the background when they're driving.
Well, maybe New York has, maybe they were doing a big film around there or something.
Maybe. I think it's like one of those, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. So apparently I thought this part was pretty fun because I can respect this as a super duper indie filmmaker myself. So, the parade scene, all right, that's actually one of the first things they filmed. Okay. And they basically just showed up to the parade and just started filming scenes. Okay.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
And when they were doing that, like they actually got real cops in there and footage. They actually got a footage of a real cop drinking on the job, which is funny as shit. Like that scene where that cop was drinking and the detective guy was like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Cop.
That's a real cop on there. And obviously this also had a you know, the person who introduced the parade to us was wasn't it Sam Raimi?
Yeah, that's Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
He's the reporter talking about the parade.
Yes. And this is also the same scene where they filmed the first scene with Bruce Campbell was during the parade scenes. So, you know, they filmed the parade basically, and they're just getting a bunch of pickup shots for the parade.
Yeah.
And eventually somebody noticed they were there. They're like, hey, you know, what the fuck are you guys doing filming this parade without no permission? They're like, oh, don't worry, we're just a local school filming a documentary. And they're like, no, you're not. Look at all this fucking high-grade professional equipment you got around here. Like, get out of here.
Wow.
So that's what happened with them. I thought that part was pretty funny. Because, like, bro, I would totally do that. I'm like, yeah, I'm just part of the New York Manhattan High School. Like, no, you're not. You got a fucking $1 million camera here. Oh, shit. I didn't know that. So, wow. Yeah, I thought that part was cool. And then, so, you know, Cohen, he did a lot of the casting. And apparently, like, he just called up these guys. Like, Tom Atkins, like, hey, man, I got a role for you. All right. And then he called up Bruce Campbell. He's like, hey, I got a role for you. You know, it's called Maniac Cop, but, you know, I'm not sure what the story's about yet, but you got a role in it. And he's like, oh, okay. So, like, you know, basically, Larry, he knew these guys, so it's pretty easy to get his cast that he wanted to.
I was about to say, like, most of these people are people that had worked with Larry Cohen before. Lorraine Landon, or Lauren, or Lorraine, I don't know what it is. Lauren Landon that worked for, played Mallory. She'd been in a lot of things with Cohen before.
Yeah, she was actually in the stuff that we did.
She was in the stuff, yeah. But yeah, he basically just called up people he knew and said, hey, do you want to be in this movie? And they're all like, yep, sure.
Yeah, same thing for same thing for Robert, too. Robert Zadar, who played officer, you know, played the main guy, Matt Cordell.
Exactly, yeah.
He called him up, too.
His whole reason for being in this movie is that he's huge.
Well, yeah. I mean, he got a nice chin, too.
He does. He does have a nice chin. That guy was like a professional wrestler. He looked like Andre the Giant in this movie.
I'm surprised if he wasn't or not. Because, I mean, he was all about... he did Maniac Cop, Tango and Cash, and Samurai Cop.
Samurai Cop's a great movie, too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he was all about it. But, you know, I mean, granted, he didn't really do that much. You know what I mean? He was just kind of like, you know, up there. I don't know if he talks more on, like, the sequels and stuff, because I actually never seen them. But, yeah, I mean, he did it.
I don't believe so.
So, a couple other things that I thought was pretty interesting about the movie, too. You know, obviously, it was on a $1 million budget that they had. So, they did what normally you do. You just reuse a lot of equipment and sets from other movies and stuff. They did that. Conan was kind of known for that, too. And I thought one part was pretty funny where Cohen used his daughter in the opening scene. All right, the waitress who got killed at the opening scene, Casey.
Yeah.
She apparently every movie that she was in, all right, the Cohen always had his daughter die in every movie. All right, and that she was basically just like, hey, you know what I mean, like, you know, why are you having me die in all these movies? And it reminded me of Dario Argento and his daughter, you know, where he would like cast her in like some, you know, crazy roles, and
right? And then she would always get like raped or something.
Yeah, something crazy. So I was like, yeah, I guess that's what you do. You know what I mean? When you do horror movies, you got her. Come on, you're the daughter. Just help me out here. All right.
Well, it was kind of like Brian De Palma. If you're familiar with Brian De Palma, the director.
No, not so much.
Really? Well, he made a bunch of really good Hitchcock-y and like Hitchcock-inspired movies, like Dress to Kill. But he was in a relationship with this woman named Nancy Allen, who was an actor for a long time. And every movie that he was in, every movie that he cast her in, he would always cast her as like a prostitute or like something like that. She was almost always a prostitute and a murder victim in whatever movie that he cast her in. Which I don't know. I think this is some weird like subconscious thing that these people are doing.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny though.
Yeah, it's just interesting. You know, I could kind of see that. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, hey, come on, like you're my daughter. Like just like it's okay, all right? Just
it's okay.
It's all right.
It's okay. You're gonna get brutally murdered in the first scene of this movie. Of every movie that I make.
If I can't find anybody else, can you just help me out here?
Right.
So you know it's very interesting about Bruce Campbell on here. There are a couple things with him being on here. You know, a lot of the stuff we saw on here, he did a lot of his own stunts, which is pretty cool. And apparently, he is not a big fan of this movie. He's not a big fan of the movie, and is not a big fan of being in the movie. Like I guess like around like 2000, he called it one of the worst movies he's did. And I was like, weird. I mean, he didn't do that much of the movie, but I didn't think he was like bad or anything. You know.
I mean, he thinks the movie's bad, or he thinks he was bad in it.
I believe I think he thinks it's both.
Like because this movie's fantastic. I don't know why anybody would not like this movie, but anyway.
So I thought it was fine too. I thought it was actually a pretty entertaining movie overall. And then so apparently I thought this was pretty interesting too, where this movie was actually a big hit in Japan. All right,
that doesn't surprise me.
So, but in order to be in Japan, you got to have like a certain length of the movie. So Japan actually paid the studio to create 5 more minutes so they could show it on their broadcast TV.
So it could be 90 minutes long?
Yeah, so it could be 90 minutes, yeah. So I thought this was kind of cool. So, but, obviously after this movie, this one, it did create its own subgenre of killer cop movies. Because this one, it had 2 sequels that came after this one. Maniac Cop 2, that happened in 1990. And then it came Maniac Cop 3, Badge of Silence in 1993. Obviously we're going to do 80s horror movies on here on the Retro Blood, but I would love to talk about those 2 maybe later on in our Lights Out or Retro 90s month or something.
Sure.
So a couple fun things too. So in television in October of 2019, HBO and Canal picked up a Maniac Cop TV series that'll be executive produced by Nicholas Wyndham through his production company NWR Origins and John Haynes, who has also directed the pilot. Writer Ed Brubaker, who worked on the pilot. What's his name?
Ed Brubaker. He's a comic book writer. But he writes really, really good crime comics.
Yeah.
Him and he's written some really. He writes a series called Criminal that's fantastic. But he was going to work on this Maniac Cop TV series, but well, you're going to tell us what happened.
Basically, he clarified it in like last year, 2023, that the project is most likely not going forward, brother.
Nope.
Which doesn't surprise me. Usually, when you have HBO involved, it's very
making this a TV series is probably going to ruin it. But that kind of sucked that we have a Maniac Cop pilot TV series out there that we have a pilot for we can't watch.
Yeah, that'd be pretty. I mean, I could see how you could do a TV series out of something like this. You know what I mean? Because if you, especially with the first story that we saw, there's ways where you could do like a whole arc of a TV story, just having Jack, Bruce Campbell's character Jack, trying to get himself, out. Trying to, get himself innocent,
Yeah, well, right. They could also just make the investigation longer too.
Yeah.
In the movie, they actually kind of find out what's going on pretty quick.
Well, I mean, kind of, but like, that's only like Frank really does. Like everybody else is pretty much
nobody else does. Right,
nobody else. And I was going to bring that up towards the end, where like the only person who was on like Jack's side was Teresa, because everybody else who knew that this guy was free all got killed. So it's very interesting at the end, where Jack's just kind of like walking around freely. So I mean, like, we'll talk about it though. But I have a couple questions for you at the end.
Okay.
So, but obviously, this, like I was saying before, not only did it do sequels, like 2 sequels from Maniac Cop, but it also actually had a copycat movie called Psycho Cop, which we are actually say it earlier, we're going to be reviewing that next week here on the Retro Blood. So pretty interesting that a movie within the 80s, all right, already has a copy of it right away, Psycho Cop, which is interesting. So it'd be fun to read about that one. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty interesting, concept and everything. And, the tagline to the movie was something, a lot of people like. You have the right to remain silent forever.
Yeah. What a great tagline.
I mean,
a good movie poster and a good tagline will get people in the seats every time in the 80s.
Yeah, and the cast, like we were saying before, Tom Atkins and Bruce Campbell are like two of like horror movie, like, big time stars at this time. You know what I mean? Like Bruce Campbell. I mean, Evil Dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that they're more, at this time, they would be more known for like people who were into like really, underground cult type movies. Yeah. Like we would be. Now they're considered legends because of the stuff that they've done.
Yeah.
But back then they were all just like regular actors trying to make it probably. But yeah, people, but I don't know if the mainstream was going to see this instead of, a Tom Cruise movie or something. But,
no. Like the movie did good, but obviously Friday the 13th Part 7 did better than it. But there was movies like, there's like way more movies around this time at the box office that were getting like, higher praise and everything.
Of course.
But, for horror movie fans, who watch like, like they're saying like the underground, like Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2, watching The Fog or Halloween 3, or Night of the Creeps. We know the Tom Atkins and Bruce Campbell, like those guys, and seeing them in the movie together was probably a pretty cool thing to watch.
True.
Back in the day, even though they're vastly different than the characters that they played before.
That's true. That is true. It's weird seeing Tom Atkins not try to. I thought for sure he was going to try and fuck Mallory, but
yeah, exactly. Or no. Okay, so we did get a glimpse of him trying to semi-fuck somebody. Was that blonde reporter?
That's true.
That's the closest time we came to him trying to Mac Natty his way through. But he's a little older at this time, which is weird. All right, because it wasn't even that. Like, when was Halloween 3? That was only like what, 1983, right? Something like that. 4.
Yeah, it was like 5 years before this.
Yeah, damn, he grew some gray hair fast. All right. So, but I said let's get into it. Let's get into the full review of the Maniac Cop.
There is something in the streets. Hey! Something in the shadows. Something in the dark that kills.
You're trying to tell me 2 kids did this?
She's got a statement from an eyewitness that said she saw the kids attack her.
Officer! Oh, thank God it's you.
The head was unstable and there was a sudden deceleration injury.
You think a cop did this?
Why not?
You automatically assume that it was a police officer instead of some lunatic son of a bitch dressed up like a cop.
He didn't kill the girl. He wanted a witness. He'll kill again. He enjoys killing.
He strikes without cause. Without mercy.
Who's he killing? Pushers? Hustlers?
Innocent people.
Maniac Cop?
You may be getting information from inside the department.
That means he is one of us.
When the killer is a cop, there's danger in every badge.
You're not gonna get me.
Suspicion in every uniform.
Since when is my personal life any of your business?
Since your wife was found dead in a motel room.
When a cop turns killer, no one is safe.
See a cop, you crossed to the other side of the street.
He'll find you wherever you are.
Bye, squad.
He'll destroy you, whoever you are.
You broke out of your cell, you killed them all.
It wasn't me, it was somebody else. I didn't do any of this.
Now they think they got the guilty man, so you'll be free to get to the mayor and the commissioner.
Reason cannot stop him. Bullets cannot kill him. This is one maniac you'll have to face alone or die. The choice is yours. You can fight him. Remain silent forever. Starring Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead. Maniac Cop.
All right. So we start off with a cop getting himself ready for duty, brother.
Yep.
Strapping himself down. And this is like kind of a weird cop outfit, though. It's like a very... Like, was this like the 80s cop outfit with the white gloves and the perfectly pressed suit?
I don't know if they were really still doing that then, but yeah, that's like back then. That's like the classic street cop look with the perfectly pressed suit and the white gloves and that kind of thing.
Very interesting. You know, nowadays they just got some pants and blue shirt on and shit.
Yeah, cargo pants and a T-shirt that says sheriff or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, the budget got a little bit. You know, we can't afford those nicely permed.
Yeah, we can't afford
pants.
Suits anymore.
Yeah, come on now. So, you know, right away they bring up the Bruce Campbell's and Tom Atkins name on there. I'm like, okay, we're starting this off hot. So this is when we meet Casey, which we talked about her already on the Who Booked the Shit. So she is getting off work, all right? And I like it where the guy's like, hey, Casey, you're leaving. You've been on your feet all day. How about you come to a nightclub so you can be on your feet some more? Like
some more, yeah.
And she's like, no, I can't go to this nightclub. I got a day job. So she has a day
to work in the morning.
Yeah, so she's a hardworking single woman at this time. So she's jogging down. And of course, she gets mugged because we're in New York in the 80s. You know what I mean? You got to get...
Yeah.
Ooh, I was going to ask you, Allison, too. What 80s New York do you prefer more? Maniac Cop or Friday the 13th Part 8?
No, Maniac Cop.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, I thought they did a pretty good portrayal of New York. Even though, like, the only semi-criticism I have about the scenery is there's a shit ton of cars, but there's no people around. Like most of the time when they're filming.
They're all out doing stuff. But one thing, like you were saying about how like this does a good job of portraying New York. Like, yeah, I mean, this is New York. You know, they shot all of these scenes were shot on location in New York. Like we see some New York landmarks coming up. The Bitter End is in this, which is a club in New York, like a folk jazz club that's still there today.
We don't got no meth addict. Where is he at?
But like, see, that's the thing though. Like, this is what New York actually looked like. If you want to see like what any area in any time period looked like, go find whatever indie movie was filmed around that time, because they didn't make a set; they just filmed whatever the city looked like.
Yeah,
and that's what they did here. So this is what New York looked like in 1988.
So Casey, she's getting mugged by these two thug guys. And she gets away because, you know, she's in New York. She knows how to fight them off. Yeah,
she beats the shit out of those guys with her purse. That's one of the things I thought was cool about this, was like about this movie in general. Is like a lot of things in this movie don't go the way you would expect them to. So, because you expect her just to get mugged, but no, she beats the shit out of them with her purse and then runs away.
So while she's doing that, she's running. We actually get a couple. There's a couple cameos from like semi-famous people, like the one this guy, the guy who like was taking out the trash. He was like the one of the producers on the film, so he had like a little cameo here of taking out the trash. So she's running away from him, and she finally sees an officer just standing in the park. She's like calling for him, and the two gangsters just stop there, and she goes up to the cop, and she sees his face is all crazy, and of course he great collies her, and she grabs her by the throat and choke slams her and stabs her neck. And the kids are like, oh shit. So then it's the next morning, all right, and you could tell it's like, you know, New York and everything, and those two kids got arrested, all right, and one of the guys arresting them too was actually an old boxing legend, which is kind of a neat.
Jake LaMotta. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Jake LaMotta was in this.
Yeah, he's like a super quick scene, like boom, there he is.
Yeah.
Apparently him and Larry, they like knew each other. So.
No, he's William Lustig is his nephew.
Oh, okay, yeah, William. Yes, I knew that one of them knew each other. So now this is when we meet Tom Atkins' character, Frank. All right. Frank McCrae. All right. And he's on there with the a police officer. and they're inspecting Casey's body. All right, and they notice that her neck and all the bones that are in her neck are all fucked up. Excuse me. Give me 1 second.
Uh-oh.
Woo. My voice was doing okay. So yeah, they noticed that her neck and everything, like some of the vertebrae in her neck, and her neck got smashed up, and Frank was like, "You telling me 2 kids just did this?" All right. And the other cop basically can't look at it. He's about to throw up and stuff. And then this is already Frank is already thinking like, this could be a cop. That's so then we get some nightlife here in New York City. All right. We have 2 teens. They almost run a red light. All right.
Yep.
And they stop there at the red light for a while. They're wondering why the light's taking so long. They start kissing. And of course the cop comes tapping on the door. And of course, it's the cop. So like, you got to do what he says, got to get out and everything. And, the premise behind the movie is very smart. Obviously, what happens if there is a killer cop? You know what I mean? Like, most people have to obey the law or else they get screwed. So he gets this kid out, makes him do some of this, like, drunk driving test on here. And he just slices his throat and throws him on the car. And the girl just goes driving off.
So one thing we didn't mention, the cop also has inside of his billy club, he pulls one end out and he has a blade in there so he can stab people.
Yeah. Yeah, he has like a hidden blade.
Yeah, hidden blade.
So now Frank, he's meeting with the commissioner. All right, Commissioner Pike, brother. All right. And he's also another one that was picked out by Larry Cohen, because he was in Shaft, and Larry Cohen likes Shaft, so that's why he picked out.
Yep, Richard Roundtree, great actor.
Yeah, he was great in this movie too.
Movie.
I thought he played a great commissioner. So now they're talking, and Frank wants to bring up his idea that, hey, these killings that we just had, these 2 killings, I think it might be a cop doing this. And Commissioner's like, why do you think this is a cop and everything? And just because he said like a lot of these MOs of the way that they've been attacking each other is very cop-like or something. And they're going on. He's like, I think we should do a internal investigation to see, just to make sure it's, everybody's in the right mental state. And the commissioner's like, well, are you in the right mental state? I heard you actually were like that a couple years ago, that you almost shot yourself. All right. And then Frank's like, well, the gun missed. He's like, oh yeah, I bet it missed. All right. So they're going on back and forth to each other. So basically the commissioner wants to keep it under wraps that these killings might be a cop, and he wants him to investigate other leads that it's not a cop.
Right. Doesn't McCrae also mention that Cassie worked at a bar that cops went to, and that she knew nearly every cop?
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason he thinks it is a cop, because I can't remember exactly what logic he used, but she knew nearly every cop around there. And that's why he thinks it's a cop.
Yes.
Because she would have went to the cop or something like that, maybe. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, yeah, because he's like saying like he visited her, like he would talk to her on a regular basis. And that's why she thought, like you were saying, like, they're very connected by the cop. And he was bringing up about the kid being stopped and everything. I'm guessing the girl, I guess the girl who was driving, probably said it was a cop too, because we never saw the girl who was, the guy who was doing the test and he gets thrown into the windshield. We never saw what happened to her. So
yeah, she just escapes and disappears out of the movie, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. She's gone. So now we have our boy Frank. All right, and he. All right. Okay, well, before we get that, sorry. So we have another killing. It's basically we're showing some more New York nightlife. And there's this guy who's looks like he's wrapping up from teaching like music. And he's about to go to his car. He gets handcuffed. And it's the bad cop chasing him down. And he's running away, tries to get down through everywhere, tries to get into the elevator. Doesn't work. He actually falls on some cement. And of course, the Maniac Cop pushes his face into the cement. So we get a little killing scene there.
And I think it's hilarious in the next scene, they're having to use jackhammers to get him out of the pavement because I guess the pavement dried overnight and now he's cemented into the sidewalk.
Yep.
So,
Cemented up in
fantastic.
there. So now we have Frank. He is at a local bar talking to a hot blonde. I was like, yep, here we go. Tom Atkins, bro. He had to put that in his contract. All right. So at first she's like, is this going to be about business or pleasure? I'm like, okay, I see where this is going.
All right.
And he's like, no, this is all about business. There's murders going on here. So the girl he's visiting is a reporter, and Frank basically tells her like, hey, they're trying to keep this under wraps and stuff, but I know if you say this over the air, you can get a lot of the public riled up about it. And if you do that, then, hopefully we can get this, more under control. So that's Frank's plan is basically to tell her like there's a cop that they're suspecting that's doing all these killings, and he's going to use her to get it out there in the public. So Commissioner on the mayor will have to take it more serious than they are. And she agrees to do that. So now we can hear her whole broadcast, that girl who was doing the whole reporting. And while she's doing that, we see another girl, and her car stalls out. All right, and of course the cop comes right behind her. Okay, and she's getting all freaked out because this reporter is saying like, yeah, this a lot of these killings have been around the cops. Just be safe if you're being around cops. Take extra precaution because they believe, from her source, that the killer could be a cop on here. And when the cop comes to try to help out the girl from her stalled car, she shoots his ass.
Yep, just shoots him in the face.
And then we cut back, and this is when we meet Commissioner Pike, the mayor, and the captain, Captain Ripley. All right, who has the most deepest voice I almost ever heard.
Yeah, that guy was fantastic.
He's like, listen, brother, I've been on the force for 40 years. I'm about to be doing some retirement. All right, it's like, damn. It's like, man, when I get I want that deep voice when I get that age. If I can even do it now. So that's what he's talking about. He's talking about, man, I'm about to be on retirement. And then they're like, okay, I'm going to find this guy. I'm going to find whoever's doing this, and we're going to take him down. So that's what that's what their goal is. So the next thing we see is a girl, and she's cutting out some newspapers. All right. Of the Maniac Cop that's running around. And this is when we meet the girl Ellen, and she is married to Jack Forrest, who is Bruce Campbell. All right. And their relationship is not the best right now. She is talking about how he is always going out at night, and how she doesn't really pay attention too much to him. And he's always working late and everything. They don't have a lot of alone time. And basically, she is worried that he is actually the killer. All right. And, Jack doesn't know this at the time. And they're just talking, back and forth about, they tried to be in marriage counseling, that, she didn't want to do that. It didn't really work out too well. He's saying, I never hurt you before. I never hurt, when have I ever hurt you? But you could tell he's very distant. The relationship is very distant from each other. So he leaves, and then Ellen gets a phone call saying, he's out again, isn't he? He's going to be out killing again, isn't he? And she's like, who are you and everything? She hangs up the phone, and she gets all worried. So she follows him. All right. So she's following him all throughout the New York nightlife. As you can see, our boy Jack going into a dirty, budget-in hotel, room 112. So she gets the key from the clerk, who is also a guest starring. I just don't remember who he's guest starring from.
He's the director. That's William Lustig.
Ah, that's who he was, yes. That was the director, brother. He was the...
I'm wondering...
Go ahead.
I'm wondering how she got the key, though.
Well, she's probably
can you just go...
I don't know, maybe, yeah.
Can you just go up in the 80s and ask for the key to a room that somebody's already renting and just take it?
Yeah, maybe she...
Walk straight in?
Well, first of all, I don't know why Jack wouldn't use an alias, or what do you call it, alias or something?
Alias, yeah.
Maybe she just used his normal name. She's like, well, look I'm his wife. See Forrest on there. I don't know. That's something I could think of. Because, if you're related, you show the ID that you have the same last name, it should be okay. But, well, she got the key one way or another. So she goes into that room, right? And she was like, had the gun with her and everything, thinking he's like killing somebody. But the only thing our boy Jack is killing is some pussy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's sleeping around, brother. All right? And like, his first line was like, why did you follow me? That's your first line, bro? After you get caught cheating? What a line.
That's the first thing you thought of to say.
Yeah. Why'd you follow me?
Yeah.
And then he goes on saying, like, I was going to tell you everything. And she's like, what the hell and everything. Freaked out. And I don't know if she was like semi-relieved or not, because she thought she thought he was sneaking out to be the killer, but he was just, cheating around. So she actually pulls the gun on him and everything because she doesn't know what to believe right now.
Yeah.
And eventually the girl, who we're going to find out is Teresa, she tells her, just let her leave. And then she leaves. Ellen leaves. And then while she's leaving the Budget Inn hotel, she gets grabbed inside a van. And then we cut to the next morning where we have the house cleaning lady. She's going in there and she cleans up the room a little bit. And then she sees the dead Ellen killed on the bed in the same room that Jack was getting it on in. So now we're doing the captain, Ripley. He grabs Jack out of the, I guess, the morning meeting that they do. And he wants to talk to him about his wife. And he's all like, and then Jack's, is just saying, like, I don't think I should talk about my personal life over here. And he eventually says, well, guess what? I wonder if I can do this guy's voice. I don't want to kill my voice because I'm a little under the weather, but I got to try it.
Yeah, try it.
He's like, she was cut from throat to throat over there.
That's pretty good. It's a little bit Macho Man, but yeah.
Like, this guy had the best deep voice ever. I'm like, fuck, bro, how many packs of smokes did he go through? All right.
Well, I mean, he was pretty old at the time when he did this. So
it's like that rugged man deep voice, you know what I mean? So he was like telling that, and he's like, obviously he was shocked about it. And then he's like, I'm going to read you your rights now. Because they all expect Jack, because obviously the wife, he had, it was known that he had disagreements with his wife, was in therapy with his wife. You know what I mean? They didn't know his whereabouts. So Jack gets interrogated now. Now he's getting interrogated by Frank and the captain, saying like, what's your alibi that you had on Wednesday? He's like, was I at home? It's like, no, you weren't. He's like, okay.
Because if you were, your wife wouldn't be wondering where you were.
Exactly. And they have some evidence, but they don't have a full evidence. And then the lawyer comes in. So then Jack's lawyer comes in. All right. And, they rush him away. And the lawyer's like, okay, so maybe we could say it's like some sort of like insanity something. He's like, wait, you think I did it? He's like, yeah, of course you did. So basically they need to, so basically Jack has a witness, but he doesn't want to bring that witness forward until they can find who the actual real killer is. And there's a reason for that.
Well, right.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason,
I was going to say, it makes logical sense.
Yeah.
That makes logical sense because he's afraid she's going to get killed.
Yes. So then now Frank is just saying like, listen, I don't think Jack is the one who did this. You know what I mean? Like the MO doesn't really like matched is basically what he's saying. Like why would he kill his wife and put him in that room where we could obviously find him and trace him back to it, So that's why like Frank is a little suspicious about it. So he wants to do a little bit more investigating. Like he wants to talk to Jack himself to figure out who this witness is that he has. So Frank ends up talking to Jack inside the cell. And he's like, listen, man, like I don't think you did it, but whoever this is targeting you. Okay, so if I could find who this girl is, maybe we can get some answers. Maybe whoever this girl is maybe, leaking information or told somebody about your all's relationship, and that's why you got. So Frank is telling Jack that he believes that there's like an inside source into the police station that is feeding this killer all the information. That's how he's like targeting all of his victims.
Yeah.
And then Jack's like, okay, well, like the girl who's my alibi actually works for the police itself. And that is the girl, Tracy Mallory. She's a police officer, but she's one of those sting police officers. Like she's one of those ones that pretend to be a prostitute to get those horny guys.
Right.
And that's what we see when we see her. We cut back to a scene of her, doing her sting operation, talking to a guy who I guess like he asked her if you were a cop, and she was like, she said it in like a funny way that she was. So I guess he believed her. It was kind of a weird scene.
Well, yeah, and also like it's like one of those things where it's a typical like sting operation. She asks him like he asked her if she wants to go somewhere or do something, and she's like, "What do you mean specifically?" And like I'm like, "Oh God, don't say anything. She's setting you up." But anyway,
yeah, pretty much. She was doing some of those lead-on questions, and I guess he caught on to it.
Yeah, he was pretty bad at that. But but anyway, it won't matter in a minute or two.
Yeah,
because what happens next?
So she's walking down a dark New York alley, so nothing can go wrong ever. All right.
No.
And she runs into the Maniac Cop herself. And she first tries to show him the badge, which is funny because the badge was like upside down.
Right.
And they never noticed that while filming. They never noticed it by filming it, so they just didn't fix it. So then she's like, she looks at his face, she's like, oh shit. So he starts grabbing her. All right. And then she's grabbing her. And then during this, Frank was going to go meet with her because he wants to go talk to her. And at this time, which I'm going to trademark at this time, she gets away from the Maniac Cop, starts shooting him 2 times. And then Frank comes around, starts shooting him like about 4 times. And then they keep shooting him like 100,000 times.
Yeah.
But somehow...
I like how Frank's gun sounds like a cannon.
Yeah, of course. He has a Halloween 3 training.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
He knows how to use the gun, brother. He had that Loomis training. All right.
He has a Loomis training, yeah.
So, I'm not really sure how this works, but somehow the Maniac Cop is now like Michael Myers, where he had a traumatic experience in his life. All right. And now he has supernatural evil powers. They're not really explained. Do I got that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Because when I tell you that, when I tell you his backstory, tell me where the psychological evil powers that you can be bulletproof come from. So then, he vanishes after all this killing goes down. And now Frank and Teresa are now in the diner drinking a bunch of shots. Not shots like drink shots. Talking about I'm pretty sure we shot that guy, didn't we? Right. And they're talking about, who they might, what's going on with this. And they talk a little bit about Jack. And Frank is basically saying, who did you ever tell about your relationship with Jack? And she's like, well, I talked to this girl named Sally. She works in, the records department. All right. And Frank's like, okay, I kind of know you talk about. I never talked to her before. And Frank is like, listen, you're going to stay at my hotel because we don't know if this guy's going to come after you or not. All right, she's a little hesitant to do that, but she eventually agrees to do that. So now Frank goes to where Sally's at in her evidence data room. All right, and then she meets her, and they start talking a little bit. And Frank is just, trying to do small conversations like, hey, I'm surprised we never met each other before, even though we said hi here and there. But I have a really big friend, Teresa. And she's like looking at her kind of weird. He's like, yeah, I feel kind of bad what happened to Teresa. She actually got attacked tonight by some sort of psycho out there. All right. It's like, well, it's very nice to meet you and stuff. And then, of course, Sally's all thinking oh, shit. You know what I mean? Uh-oh. So then Frank follows her all the way to a pier. Allison, have you ever followed anybody to a pier before?
No, I've been to a pier.
Was it about to be torn down?
No.
Well, this one was, brother. All right.
Yep.
So Frank follows them all the way to Pier 14. All right. And then we can see that Sally is talking to the crazy maniac cop himself. And Sally's basically saying, like, listen, I know what the commissioner and the sergeant did to you. Okay. But you can't go around killing innocent people. Like, I thought when you got your evil maniac cop powers, superpowers like Michael Myers, I thought you were just going to kill junkies, but you're out there killing normal people. Right? And then she hears a noise. She starts shooting randomly because it was Frank making a noise. And then when she looks around, she sees that the maniac cop is it's gone at this time. And I think
so he's
go ahead.
I was gonna say he's kind of like the Punisher from Marvel Comics in a way.
So okay,
except he kills really truly innocent people.
Yes, and I believe at this time this is kind of like when we get the. I think she says it. She says his name like Matt.
Yeah.
All right. So now Frank heard the name Matt Cordell. All right, and after he does like this random scene with him getting caught taking a piss. Him and the cop taking a... This is a random scene. It's just basically for him to tell him, like, can't a guy take a piss anymore anywhere? All right, so now...
Oh, yeah, he pulls he pulls the gun on the security guard. Yeah.
So now now Frank is researching about this Matt Cordell guy. And he's talking to another cop about this Matt guy. And basically... The gist of the story is the bad guy used to be a really like famous cop in New York. Like he took down a lot of bad guys, but I guess he was very like super strict. So not only was he strict to the bad guys, but he's also strict to innocent people. And I guess that got him in trouble with the wrong people. So they threw him in the same jail cell as all the bad people that he put away. All right. And he got killed in the jail cell. And we actually see a flashback of that pretty soon, which I'll get to in a second. But they are also talking about the cop that Frank was talking about also said that he also had a girlfriend who was so upset about Matt, getting killed in the jail cell that she jumped out the window and she basically crippled herself. And that's not what a Christian woman does. That's what he said. So.
Yeah, and the thing about Sally is that she wears a leg brace and walks with a cane.
Exactly. So I like that little hint that they did. Like he didn't necessarily say it was Sally, but he gave the hint of, the Sally character basically. So I thought that was a pretty cool.
Right.
So now, now we head to Matt. All right, and now Matt, we can see him laying down, and now he dreamed. We get a dream sequence about what happened with him in the prison cell. All right.
Right.
So this is where my question comes up there, Allison. So Matt, totally normal cop, a little big. He got a very nice chin. Obviously, he works out. Might be on the gas. We don't know. It's the 80s. Cocaine, maybe. All right. So he's in the jail cell, right? And he's taking a shower. And all these bad guys that he put away started attacking him, and he's whooping out their asses. All right? Until he gets stabbed in the back. Okay? And then when he gets stabbed in the back, then he gets cut and sliced across the face. All right? And that's the dream sequence. Now, here later on, we're going to have more to the story. Okay? Which I'll just talk about right now. So, he's not dead. Okay, everybody thinks he got dead in the shower by getting shanked, basically. But when he gets checked out by the doctor, he is still alive, even though he's all cut up. So the doctor just, sent him on his way, basically. Just shipped him out. He wrote that he was deceased, but, he dropped him off somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. Okay? So, if you're telling me that so how did he get his magical bullet powers?
We never find that out.
Okay, maybe that's a sequel. You know, maybe when he was maybe when he got dropped off in the dirt, maybe some sort of magical Michael Myers force came and rose them up or something. Very interesting. But to get back to the story, this is when Frank gets Teresa and Jack together because he knows now that Jack is innocent. All right, but he needs to prove to the county and the commissioner and everything that Jack is innocent and that this guy Matt is alive and killing the people. All right, but before he can do that, all right, because he basically put Teresa and Jack together in like kind of like a safe prison lockup interrogation room. All right, and he was gonna go get some evidence from Sally's drawer, her desk area, because he found the white glove. He found the white glove, brother. And when he found the white glove, Sally comes up and starts whacking him over there with her crutch. All right? Yeah. And then she gets away and everything, and she's trying to escape. And then she sees a dead cop hanging from the ceiling. And now Matt Cordell showed up, brother. And now he starts Michael Myering everybody. He even grabs Sally through the window, and he kills his love because he's a maniac now. All right? So we have a big scene of Frank shooting. All right, shooting Matt Cordell a couple times, not working again, and he eventually kills Sally. And then we cut back to they also see another scene where Jack and Teresa figure out like a lot of these cops are dead now, and so they're going through. They need to escape because basically Teresa sees one like the prison guard stuff. He's just dead, so she freaks out. And Jack's like, he's basically saying like, Jack's saying like, hey, you got to get out of here first. If they see me, they're going to think I did all this and kill me on the spot. All right. So they're trying to escape, and they're trying to escape to Frank's car. All right. So Teresa gets to the car, and out of nowhere, she's just sitting on the car. And then we could see Frank's body fall like he's in Die Hard all the way down to the fucking car, which I thought that scene was cool as shit.
Yes. A lot of these stunt scenes were really cool. The stunt scene where she throws the, we'll get there anyway.
Well, I thought it was very interesting that they killed off the Frank character. Like, I didn't expect that.
No, I didn't either. I thought it was kind of cool that they killed him off that early. Yeah, like he's not like the final hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you would expect.
So now Teresa's freaking out and everything, and Jack is now trying to escape, but he gets caught by the one cop that was with Frank, the other detective, and that detective guy thinks that Jack is killing everybody, and Jack's like, I didn't do any of this. He's like, yeah, I don't believe you. And he's trying to try to call, but he sees Sally's hand right there, so he freaks out. Jack grabs the gun and knocks him out, and then he goes and tells the other two cops to put down their guns. He's like, I didn't do any of this stuff. The cops are like, are we going to follow him? And the cop's like, well, he said he didn't do anything.
Yeah, so why bother?
Why bother? So then randomly, I thought this was a pretty interesting scene here too. So Teresa and Jack's idea now is they're going to go to the prison where Matt Cordell supposedly got killed, and they're going to interrogate the medical doctor because Jack's like, I cannot clear my name unless this guy is believed to be alive. So that we see them go by train, and then we actually get a helicopter footage of a real life prison. And another cool tidbit about the movie too is they got permission to film the prison, but they can only do it from 500 feet, or else they're going to shoot the helicopter down.
Yeah, it says prison rules.
Yeah, prison rules, man. Come on now.
They might be trying to help somebody escape. Who knows?
Yeah. So go ahead.
But basically they were so they're going to interrogate the guy, but they were McCrae had an appointment with him.
Yeah.
So they're going to go there and pretend to be McCrae.
Yes.
And then because they would never check ID, I guess, in the 80s.
Yeah, no.
And then
of course not.
And then go talk to the prison doctor.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was like you were saying, that was part of McCrae's plan, was to, obviously gather a lot of evidence to, prove to the whole, commission everything, that this Matt Cordell guy's still alive. So they get down there, they talk to this medical officer, and they're just asking about, you know, Matt Cordell, what happened to him, everything, and he keeps beating around the bush, okay, until he actually spills the beans on him. And he's all like, yeah, so we see a flashback of he was all cut up and everything, and then he actually still had a pulse. And he was saying that he thought the humane thing to do was just to let him go and just pretend that he was dead, because he was such a nice cop and he got pretty much screwed over by the system, that he knew that if he treated him and made him better, he would just get back in prison and he could just get killed again. And he was such a respected cop by a lot of the, you know, lower level people. So that's why
we're just not going to treat him.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and like, you know, he was saying, like, you know, a lot of times when, you know, inmates die, you know, they don't dress them up or anything. They just basically just put them in a box and ship them all out. All right. So then you know, he recognizes that he's not really talking to the real McKee. He's talking to Jack because he's on the paper and everything. And he's like, you know, he's like, listen, I didn't do these killings. You know Matt's alive. You know Matt's the one that's doing it. And of course the guy's like, get out. Because he feels like, obviously he feels responsible because he's the one that let the Matt Cordell out on the loose, brother. All right. Right. So now so there's like a little, I like how they kind of did this. So after they leave, there's the secretary comes in and it's like, hey, doctor, here's your green tie. He's like, why do I need this? Well, it's St. Patrick's Day. And then we cut to the St. Patrick's Day parade. All right. So we had the St. Patrick's Day parade, and there's a newscast over there saying, yeah, even though all these reports about cops killing, you know, people, and the cops are killing everybody in the town, everybody's fine with this parade. They're all out there hanging out with the cops, no problem. New York's are not scared.
No problem.
And then we see the footage of the real cop drinking in the John, which is always funny.
Yeah.
And now we have Jack and Teresa. And Jack is saying, okay, Teresa, you're going to go in there and you're going to tell them that I'm innocent because we don't really have a lot of evidence that Matt's alive. But, you know, if I go in there and tell them that, they're going to shoot me. But if you go in there and tell them that, they might believe you. So that's their plan now.
Sure.
So she goes in there. She gets, you know, caught because they think that the station killing was Jack and Teresa now. So Teresa is now talking to Commissioner Pike with the Sergeant Ripley there. And she's telling Pike and Ripley, like, hey, this is not Jack's doing at all. It's Matt Cordell. He's not dead. He's out there killing stuff. And they're like, you're just making up all kinds of stories now, aren't you? You know, like you're going to blame everything on a dead guy. That's what psychos would do. And she's trying to like convince him, like, hey, it's really like this Matt guy, but they're not believing it at all. And she's like, well, if you go down there, you're going to get killed because he's coming and looking for both of you. And of course, Commissioner Pike's like, I don't believe you. Arrest that girl and take her away. All right, so they have a cop come in there and handcuff her. So they're leaving to go do the speech, and they just get killed near the elevator. There they go, brother. Sergeant Deep Voice and Pike are gone. They get stabbed.
Yeah, we got to get rid of these people quick. We're getting to the end of the movie.
Yeah, I know. We got to hurry this up, brother. We only got so much time. So now this cop's like, hey, you know, yeah, we got this commissioner's room all alone together. All right. It's just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like randomly. And she's all like,
yeah, I don't know why this was shocking to me, but it was.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
He's like, yeah, why don't we just fuck before I arrest you?
Exactly.
It's not like he doesn't know she's a cop.
Yeah, exactly. No harm done. All right. And then the next scene is all like, okay, so what was it all about? Money? I was like, what? How do you go from wanting to have sex with her to blaming her on killing people for money? All right.
Wow.
This guy's like something. And she's like, no, it wasn't all this stuff. Like, I need to talk to my lawyer. He's like, well, you know, you're kind of killing my vibe right now, girl. That's basically what he was like. And then
it was crazy.
It's like, come on. It's like basically a wrestler's like, I don't like your attitude. All right. And then he just like they're walking down the hallways, like talking about he doesn't like her attitude so much that he gets stabbed in the stomach by Cordell. Yeah. So basically, Cordell technically saved Teresa from a possible bad experience.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Kind of like Jason does.
Kind of.
So so I guess she gets away from Cordell. He just stabs him and stops. And then she drags his dead body all the way into like the break room. She grabs the key and she throws the chair out the window. All right.
Yeah, which looked great. Like it just flies out the window and then you can see it like hit the top of the building on the outside. It was awesome.
Yeah. So she's now trying to escape from Cordell within the window. And all the cops like go rushing up there because they're like, what the hell's going on? And then Jack kind of makes himself known. And then these other cops see Jack and they're like, hey, there's Jack. There he is. And they go arrest him. All right. And then Teresa, she's like up on the top balcony. She almost falls off in like real life, which is crazy. And
yeah, I mean, this you can also tell that this is like a real set, like a real building.
Exactly.
Like they're struggling on the edge of a real damn building. I mean, this is not like a CGI set or anything like that. This scene was amazing the way they did that.
Yeah, it was all pretty much just real shit. So while she's on there, she sees that Jack's getting arrested. She's like, no, you got the wrong pie. He's in here. So all the cops, they don't listen. They just throw Jack in the back of a wagon. All right, a police wagon seller. And they're about to go drop him, take him, somewhere for lockup. And then Cordell shows up, knocks the driver away, and he takes Jack off. And I was thinking, like, what was his plan here? This Cordell guy, like, he literally could have just like left and had all the cops arrest Jack. And the only word would have been Sally's. I mean, not Sally. The only word that would have been Teresa's word against everybody else. So Matt ends up, capturing Jack. Is going to take him to the pier. And then Teresa grabs another police officer saying, we got to follow that car. He's being kidnapped. He's like, okay. And he tells her
this cop believes her.
Yeah, this cop believes her, I guess.
Even though none of the other ones do.
Yeah, exactly. None of the other ones do. Fucking weird. But the only thing I could think of is that maybe some of the cops saw the big Matt take the wagon. Even though it only looked like one of them did. So I don't know. So they're doing this huge big chase scene. A lot of exploding cars, a lot of running in the cars and all kind of shit. Eventually we get to the pier. Cordell takes the good old axe and breaks into the wagon to grab Jack and I guess kill him for some reason.
Well, one thing before we get there, I want to mention that the whole time during the chase scene, Bruce Campbell is doing his Evil Dead thing in the back, where he's throwing himself against the wall. Yeah, and I'm sure that's really like him doing that too. Like he's probably like they shot that with in a stationary vehicle, and he's like throwing himself against the wall. Yeah, but yeah, he's doing this whole Evil Dead thing, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. And then after that, he breaks in. Teresa comes in with the cop. They start shooting down Cordell. He doesn't affect them at all. Cordell kills the one cop that was with Teresa, and then they start fighting together. And the other cop called backup. All right, so while Cordell got Teresa and Jack down, he hears the cops coming, so he grabs inside the station wagon or the wagon, the police wagon. He gets on out of there. Jack's hanging on for the side. All right, doing all those real stunts here. I guess Cordell's plan was to just run the wagon into the water. So he runs right into a docking pole that stabs him right through the heart. Wagon goes down. Jack does like a 360 fucking diver's Olympic swim.
Yeah, I thought that's. I'm pretty sure that's a real stunt too. Like I'm pretty sure that's a stuntman doing that.
Yeah, definitely a stuntman.
I thought it was a dummy at first, but then you can see him move his arms. So I'm like, holy shit! Like a real stuntman did that like 360 degree flip after jumping off the edge of that.
That's like one of those Will Ospreay flips.
Yeah,
to the fucking water.
Because when he comes back up out of the water, he's like looking around, like, is anything gonna fall on my head? Like you can tell that he's like trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. So after all that, now we're it's the next morning, and they're raising up the wagon. All right. And they don't see anything in the wagon. They're looking around, but then we see a hand go on part of the pier. And that's where we end the movie.
Yep.
So my big question is, if the commissioner, Frank, Sally, and the cop that was with Teresa all got killed, how do these other cops know that it's not Jack that did all the killing?
Well, a lot of them did. I think a lot of the backup ones probably maybe saw Cordell. But they don't really explain that. They also don't explain why he has superpowers either.
Yes. Well, you get cut in the prison cell. You know what I mean?
Maybe that way.
Maybe here's what happened.
From the infected water.
When they released him from the jail, like they threw him in a box out there in the middle of nowhere, he got buried in the pet cemetery. There you go.
All right. There you go.
There you go. Solved it. No need for the sequels, but I already solved the mystery. Nope. All right. But yeah, that would be fun. I've seen this movie before. I reviewed it on one of my old shows, and I always liked this movie. I thought it was very fun, very well paced.
It's a fun movie. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I was gonna say it's well paced.
Yeah. There's some stuff.
It makes sense for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, it makes sense. There's not a whole lot of stuff explained, which is fine. You don't need everything explained in every horror movie. No. But it's very, Halloween-esque. It's very like supernatural killer-esque, I guess, in a way. Yeah, but it has a very. I can see why this had a sequels and had like a remake, because it is a very, interesting concept that they did with the killer cops. So. But hopefully it doesn't go downhill from here.
Hopefully not.
Because we will return here next week for Maniac Cop, Bad Cop Month. Because we were talking about the supposed ripoff from this movie, Psycho Cop.
Yeah, Psycho Cop.
Which actually was popular itself, that actually has a sequel that happened in the 90s as well.
Wow.
So apparently the 90s are all about the cop sequels. All right.
Top sequels. Yeah, sure.
So, but yeah, definitely fun. Gonna be a fun month over here at the Retro Blood. I'm glad you're back here, Allison.
So it's good to be back.
We can go in depth of all these wild 80s crazy train rides that we go on all the time. But obviously we're gonna be ending with some Queensrÿche, and I say we do I Don't Believe in Love.
Sounds good to me.
The reason I want to do that because of our boy Jack. Obviously, he not believing some love because he don't like his wife. He just wants to get that cop pussy.
Yeah.
It's always
his song is I Just Believe in Cop Pussy.
It's true. The remix, brother. Maybe that's on the
remix.
The Mindcrime.
Mindcrime 2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah.
There you go. But everybody, join us here next week for Psycho Cop. Jay Austin, James Kine. We'll see y'all later.
See you guys.